One of the most talked about movies of the year, Promising Young Woman, is part thriller, part dark comedy, part revenge fantasy, with Chris Lowell starring as a not so promising young man. Take a look.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know.
Why do you guys have to ruin everything? We were kids.
If I hear that one more time.
Hey, Chris is with me now. Chris, good to see you. How are you, man? Congrats.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to talk about this movie. So let's dive right in because it's amazing.
First, congrats because the movie just got Oscar nominations, plural, for Best Picture, Best Screenplay, Best Director, Best Actress. Where were you when you found out the news, and what was your reaction?
You know, I was excited and hopeful that we would get all these nominations, and especially because Emerald Fennell, who is the writer and director of this movie, I mean, what she does with this film, what Carey Mulligan does with this film, is it's such a hard landing to stick, and it was such a brilliant, complex vision that Emerald had for this film, and I'm just so glad that it's getting the accolades that it so clearly deserves, because it's a really beautiful, powerful, difficult, brilliant film.
Yeah, and it's one of the most talked about movies of the year, I think. And besides all how beautiful it is and everything else, what do you think it is about this movie that's striking a chord with so many people?
Well, I think that, unlike a lot of Academy Award films, this is not a muted, somber, subtle social commentary. I
Yeah.
mean, it comes at you with a bang. It is
Yeah.
full of pop music and color and saturation and noise, and it's such an insane, like, onslaught of just entertainment. And then underneath it is this extraordinarily challenging, complicated social commentary that I feel like forces you as an audience member to really engage with. This is not a movie that you watch and have like an indifferent response. Like, this film stays with you. You
It does.
cannot not have an opinion about it. And I think that's what's so powerful about it.
Yeah, I saw the film. I love the film. For those who haven't seen it yet, kind of set it up for us and tell us where you fit into this story.
Sure. So Promising Young Woman is about this young woman played by Carey Mulligan, who essentially has her life derailed by this tragic event that befalls a friend of hers. And she spends the course of the film seeking vengeance on behalf of her friend. And really the way that she finds vengeance is by forcing these men to be accountable for their behavior, which doesn't sound very climactic, but the further she goes down this rabbit hole, the more extreme she gets with forcing these people to really account for their behavior. And my character in the film is named Al Monroe, and he is essentially the person that started her on this very kind of self-destructive journey. And when she and I finally do meet in the film, it is a very unexpected and very wild and difficult climax to an already wild and difficult movie.
Yeah, I mean, talk to us about your character for a second, because what's it like playing this guy, and how do you see him? Because I feel like when you're an actor playing someone, you've got to find things that make
Yeah,
them.
yeah, absolutely. It's difficult. I think what I think is so brilliant about Emerald, the director's approach to this movie, especially with the guys, is this is a film that's theoretically full of a bunch of nice guys who are doing not nice things.
Yeah.
And in terms of how to approach that character, Emerald was very specific about not leading with their negative traits. That's actually very inaccurate. That what she wanted was for each one of us to believe that we are good guys, that we are good people, that we are doing the right things, that we are good, respectable men of society. And I think when you find the difficult and regrettable behaviors of those kinds of people, when those people who have convinced themselves that they are good start doing bad, but are blindsided by the sort of narrative they've built for themselves,
Yeah.
you really start to see how destructive they can be.
Yeah. I mean, Max Greenfield, I don't know how. How much of a good guy.
Max plays a scumbag from beginning to end in this film, and he's amazing at it. I
So good at
genuinely think
that.
he's so good at it, and he had so much fun doing it. I mean, Max is maybe the most like right out of the gate, he's trouble in this movie.
Yeah.
But I think the rest of the guys, I think Emerald does this really clever thing, which is that she introduces these men as decent guys and then allows them to slowly reveal themselves to
Yeah.
Carrie's character and to the audience.
Yeah. I mean, without giving too much away, when you first read the script and you read that ending, like, what was your reaction? I mean, oh,
As an actor, it's really exciting because
yeah.
you read a scene like that, you read like a 12-page scene that's just a two-hander, and you see all the suspense and all the drama and where it starts and where it ends. And I mean, it's terrifying. It's intimidating to read something like that, knowing that I was going to be performing that with Carey Mulligan, who's like a powerhouse of an actor.
Yeah.
But it's also the best thing about it, showing up at work and
Yeah.
being like, I don't know if I'm going to do a good job, but I'm going to try as hard as I possibly can and hope for the best. And like, when you really stick the landing, and again, when you have a director with as clear a vision as Emerald, you really feel like you're being taken care of. It feels great. You sleep great that night,
I was
when
gonna
you
say,
feel like
because
you've done a good job.
yes, but also like, how do you sleep the night before? Because
Yes.
that is an intense scene. Things get pretty. How do you prepare yourself for that? And like, what is it like on set for something like that?
Well,
What's the
that's a great
energy?
question. So actually, set is a great way to think about it. This film very easily could have been a quiet, hushed toned, closed set atmosphere because the context of all of these scenes is so loaded and heavy and somber. And I think Emerald knew that going into it, and her way of dealing with it was to have as much levity on set as possible. She was
Yeah.
constantly making jokes. Everybody was in the best of spirits as often as possible. And I honestly think it saved us because it gave us an opportunity to kind of shake it off a little bit when the cameras weren't rolling, and I
Yeah.
think otherwise we would have gotten too bogged down in just like, the content of what we were doing,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that you slept well that night. It's
I
just
did.
like,
Well,
because I was going there with you. I was like, oh my God.
oh, it was agonizing. I mean, reading for me, the most difficult part was the prep,
Yeah.
reading the script, dealing with like what I'm reading, dealing with this character, like seeing what it brings up in me. And then really trying to find a way to fall in love with this character, to empathize with this character, to believe that this character is actually thinking he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then once you do that prep work, then you got to show up on set, and then it's just work, then you're working with another professional. And Carrie, thankfully, is a total professional and
Yeah.
such a team player, and then you're just in there with another actor, like trying to, not drop the ball, trying to allow her to continue being brilliant, trying to like take any morsels you can get from her to like increase your own
Yeah.
performance. It's fun. It's really exciting, fun acting stuff.
And exhausting, I imagine,
Totally
too.
exhausting.
Like emotionally
Completely exhausting.
exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, but also riveting. You have
Yeah.
such an adrenaline rush at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, we know and love you from so many things, but most recently from Glow. I'm such a fan of the show. But
I
it's,
know.
it's a show that also kind of celebrates women's strength or like finding your own power. Do you see any common threads between Glow, which is a completely different animal, and this film?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just the fact that these are women creators and women writers who are having the opportunity to like actually tell their own stories. I think that alone is so refreshing. It's so nice to work in that atmosphere and that environment. And yeah, I think there's this, we're so used to seeing women playing the wife of, or girlfriend of, or
Yeah.
victim of. And in both Glow and in Promising Young Woman, you are seeing these women who are having so much power that they are reclaiming for themselves and really utilizing to like a great extent. It's just really invigorating to watch, and I love it. I love these stories that are being told. I love that I still get to be a part of these stories. I
Yeah.
love my place in them. I'm very grateful for both those jobs.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Glow for a second. Like I said, I was a big fan of the show. Sadly it came to an end
Uh,
after season 3, and you guys were already filming. So
we
what
were
did it feel
literally, we
like to
were
say
on set.
goodbye?
We were on set. All of us were in a wrestling ring with these new costumes, shooting this ridiculous new opening credit sequence. And the producers came on set and were like, we're going to go on a pause for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you know? And I think we all were so, I mean, the thing that was so heartbreaking about it is that we knew we had the scripts, we knew where it was going. It was this beautiful, brilliant arc that Liz Flahive and Carly Mensch had put together to really wrap up the show. And it still is kind of shocking. I don't think I really fully accepted the fact that I won't be able to play that character again, that I won't be able to see those other actors again on set.
Yeah.
It's tragic because they're geniuses, all of them, and the show was just brilliant.
Yeah, I kind of hope that, it gets to finish out someplace.
Hey,
Things
you and me both.
things go. I talked to Jackie Tone recently too, and she was, I mean, just heartbroken over it being done. But I have hopes that it gets to finish someplace, somewhere down the road. But
Yeah, I'm just grateful that we got to do it for 3 years. For 3 years, I got to go to that place, and that was my job. I mean, it's
yeah,
insane. You don't get that lucky very often, and I really do think on that job, every day that I was there, all of us were aware that we were part of something special. So that alone is worth being grateful for sure.
yeah. Well, you have more things to be grateful for. Looking ahead, you're working on the Shonda Rhimes series, Inventing Anna, which is about Anna Delvey, who like scammed a lot of people. Like, what
Oh
did you
man,
know
she's a
about her?
fascinating character.
Yeah.
Yeah, she came to New York and just really just walked the walk. She pretended to be the heiress of this huge fortune and used just her own confidence to essentially swindle like all of the Soho elites, stayed in all these hotels, spent all this money, and got away with it for years.
Ah,
It's a fascinating story. It's wild, and everybody involved in that, all of those actors are also so freaking brilliant. And I've worked with Shonda in the past, so just to be able to kind of like live in her world again, which is
yeah.
also so specific, it's a blast. I mean, I got to shoot in Morocco for 2 weeks. It was
Ah,
awesome. Yeah,
jealous.
yeah. What? How can you complain about that?
So who do you play in that show?
So I play this, actually. It's sort of a conglomerate of like three different characters, real people. But basically, what happened at one point over the course of Anna's like multi-pronged hustle is she somehow convinced a photo editor from Vanity Fair and her like personal trainer to fly to Morocco to stay in some hotel that Kylie Jenner posted a pic of on Instagram, and just pretend to be there working on like some new brand strategy, but really just sit by the pool and eat a bunch of free food. And my character is somebody who went there and took these photographs and videos of what was going on, but very quickly started to realize like that this was total BS and something smelled rotten. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's sort of starts putting the pieces together that something's not
yeah.
right. And it was fun. It was so fun to shoot. It was so fun to be in Morocco shooting with like all those actors. I had a blast. It was the second time I got to work with Laverne Cox, who's also in Promising Young
I
Woman.
know. I talked to her about Promising Young Woman. That's the first time I saw the movie because I was interviewing Laverne.
Yeah, she's amazing. Oh my God, we had fun.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned it's like art imitating life. You were photographing in that show, and if you look at your Instagram, your social media feeds, it's like an art exhibit. I mean, has
Thank
this
you.
always been a passion of yours? Have you always?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it?
My first job ever was this show on ABC called Life as We Know It. And my character played a photographer, and Gabe Sachs, the producer, gave me this old Leica M3 rangefinder and was like, I'll give you all the film you want. Just go out and take photographs. And because my character on the show was a photographer, and I just became obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And when I went back to college, I changed my major to photography, and I just really fell in love with shooting on what the old master shot on. So I still shoot on film. I still print my own work in black and white in the dark room. And I've just really fallen in love with the art of photography. It's just such a beautiful way to create. And, as actors, we can't manifest jobs for ourselves. We have
Yeah.
to, it's a team sport. You have to work with a lot of people. And with photography, I love the freedom that I can photograph what I want, when I want, however I want, and really have it be like a real streamlined expression of my creative self.
Just
It's
you.
wonderful. Just
Just
yeah,
you.
it's just
Yeah.
this is how I see the world, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, do you think that'll ever translate into kind of jumping behind the camera, maybe some cinematography or directing at some
Yeah, you
point?
know, I directed a film a few years ago called Beside Still Waters, and I'm actually ramping up to make my next film, which would shoot in New York, called Lovers. And again, this is a project that I am hell bent on shooting on film. I just love the, you know, when you're shooting on film, it's literally what you are seeing is light interacting with silver. It's
Yeah.
alchemy, you know. It's so tangible, and I love that. It's very invigorating for me to see projects made on film that way. I just think it's a great way to still make art.
Yeah. Well, you have so many great projects. Congrats on Promising Young Woman. I hope you guys take home the
Oh,
Oscar.
I
I
hope
mean,
I just hope for Carrie and Emerald's sake, they deserve all the accolades, and I hope so too. Thank you so much for saying that.
yeah, but
Please
like you
go see
said,
the film.
it's a team effort. So everybody in
Absolutely.
this movie was so good to bring this together, and it's the reason it's nominated for Best Picture. Congrats again. Promise Young Woman is available now on Blu-ray, on DVD, on VOD. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll all be back spending some time together
Oh,
in this
I'm
great
crossing my
city.
fingers. Okay, the next time I see you will be on the sidewalk. All right.
Yes, yes. All right, have a
All right.
wonderful day.
Thanks. You too.